The carriage was still standing at the church gate with the white ribbons on it when Hannah Poole came round the corner into Vine Court, and there was a man sitting on the wet stones with his back against the wall, and he was crying in the way that men do who have not done it since they were 9. She did not know who he was. She knelt down on the cobbles in her second-best dress and put her arms round him, and he held onto her sleeve like a child, and it was 4 minutes before either of them said anything at all. And Hannah Poole had known since March exactly why the bride had not come. Before we begin, tell me in the comments what country you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. I read every single one, and if you like stories like this, subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it means everything. Vine Court was where the deliveries went, and that was why Hannah Poole was in it, at 11 o'clock in the morning, on the 4th of June. She had been at St. Bride's since 8 with a box, because a bride's gown does not go to a church in the bride's carriage. It goes in a box, at 8 in the morning, by the back way, with a girl who kneels on the vestry floor and does the last 4 hooks with the mother standing over her saying that the waist is wrong. The waist had not been wrong. The waist had been exactly what Miss Caroline Vane had asked for in the March, and had confirmed in the April, and had asked to have taken in by 1/2 inch in the last week of May, and Hannah had let it out again on the 2nd of June, without being asked, because Hannah Poole had been fitting that gown for 4 months, and had noticed what was happening to the girl inside it. She had said so, once, to Mrs. Gell, who kept the workroom in Duke Street. "She has lost near 2 inches since March, ma'am. Brides do. Not like that. She has lost it off her collarbones, and she cannot keep still, and she does not look at the glass." Hannah had had a mouthful of pins, and had taken them out to say it properly. "Ma'am, on Tuesday I asked her to turn and she did not hear me, and I said it again, and she said I am sorry, I was somewhere else, and then she stood there and cried for about a minute, and then said it was the heat." Mrs. Gell had gone on with what she was doing. "Hannah," she had said, "how many gowns have you fitted in this house?" "Perhaps 200, and how many of the brides cried?" Hannah had thought about it. About half, Mrs. Gell agreed. "And every one of them was married inside the month, and most of them are perfectly comfortable now. Girl, I have been at this trade 31 years, and I will tell you the whole of what I have learned. We are not asked. We are never asked. We kneel on the floor and we see everything in that house, and nobody in it counts us as being in the room, and that is the entire reason they let us in. And the day you say one word out of turn is the day this house stops being sent for." So Hannah Poole had said nothing to anybody, and had let the waist out 1/2 inch on the 2nd of June, and had gone to St. Bride's at 8 on the 4th with the box. She got the gown on Miss Vane at 9 in the vestry, and the girl's hands were like ice. There was a moment, Hannah went back over it for years, at about 9:15, when the mother had gone out to speak to somebody, and there were 4 seconds when the 2 of them were alone in that room, and Caroline Vane had looked at Hannah Poole in the glass, and had opened her mouth. And Hannah had said, "The hem is uneven at the back, miss. I shall want you to stand quite still," which was not true, and had knelt down. She never once, in 50 years, forgave herself for that. The wedding was at 10:30, and Hannah did not go in, because a dressmaker's girl does not go in. She waited in the vestry passage with the box and her work bag in case anything went at the shoulder, which is what they were paid to wait for, and at about 20 to 11 she heard the church go wrong. It is a particular sound. It is not a shout. It is 200 people beginning to talk at once in a building where nobody is supposed to be talking, and it went on for about 4 minutes, and then somebody began to cry very loudly at the front, and then Hannah heard a great many people standing up at the same time. She got out through the vestry door into Vine Court with the box under her arm, because she did not want to be in that passage when they came through it, and there was a man sitting on the stones with his back to the wall. He had got about 40 feet from the church door. His hat was on the cobbles 4 feet away, and there were white flowers scattered along the wet stones where somebody had dropped a bunch of them, and he was sitting with his knees up and one hand over his face, and he was crying so hard he could not breathe properly. Hannah Poole put the box down. She was 23, and she had never in her life touched a gentleman, and she thought about it for perhaps 2 seconds and then knelt down on the wet cobbles in her second-best dress and put both arms round him. He grabbed hold of her sleeve. That was all. He did not look up, and he did not say anything, and he got a fistful of the sleeve of her dress the way a child does, and Hannah Poole knelt on the stones in the rain of the day before, and held on to a man she had never seen, and did not say one single word for 4 minutes, because there was nothing to say, and she had known since March that this was coming. He stopped eventually. He did not let go straight away, and she did not make him. When he did, he sat back against the wall and put both hands over his face and breathed for about half a minute, and then he said, from behind his hands, "I am extremely sorry."
"There is nothing to be sorry for. There is a great deal to be sorry for, and I shall get to it."
He took his hands away. Hannah Poole looked at him properly for the first time, and he was perhaps 35, and his face was in ruins, and she still did not know who he was, and would not have known if he had told her his name, because she did not go into churches at 10:30, and she had never in 4 months been told the gentleman's name at all. She had been told the wedding was the 4th of June at St. Bride's, and that the waist was to be taken in. "I have made a spectacle of myself in a public court," he said. "There is nobody in this court but me. You are somebody." "I am a dressmaker's girl," said Hannah, "and I have been kneeling in that vestry since 8 o'clock, and I have got the box, and I am about as near to nobody as this morning has got in it. You may cry in front of me for another 1/4 of an hour if you want to." Something happened at the corner of his mouth that was not anything like a smile. "What is your name?" "Hannah Poole, sir." "Poole." He wiped his face with the heel of his hand, which was a thing Hannah had seen men do in the street 1,000 times, and had never once seen done by a man in a coat like that. "I am Aubrey Massingham. I do not suppose that means anything to you." "No, sir." "Marchford," he said. "The Duke of Marchford. It does not appear to be doing me a great deal of good this morning." Hannah Poole knelt on the cobbles and did not move at all. He saw her face. "Do not," he said. "Whatever you are about to do, get up, or apologize, or say your grace. Do not do it. I have been your grace for 11 years, and I have just been sitting on the ground in front of you, and you may call me whatever you like for the rest of the day. I ought to go, sir." "Yes," he agreed. "You ought." Neither of them moved. "May I ask you something?" said the Duke of Marchford. "It is not a fair question, and you are entirely free to say you cannot answer it, and I shall not think one thing worse of you." Hannah's hands had gone cold. "Ask it, sir." "You have been fitting her gown since the march. Then you have been in a room with her for 4 months, he said, and I want to know, and I am asking a stranger in an alley because there is not one person in that church I could ask, whether she was happy, and there it was." Hannah Poole knelt on the stones of Vine Court with a box beside her, and heard Mrs. Gell say, "We are not asked, we are never asked, and the day you say one word out of turn is the day this house stops being sent for." She was 23. She had 11 shillings a week, and a mother at Islington, who had no other income. There were 4 girls in that workroom, and Mrs. Gell had turned 2 off in the winter. "No, sir," said Hannah Poole. She was not. The Duke of Marchford shut his eyes. "Since when?" "Since before I ever saw her." She could hear her own voice, and it did not sound like hers. "I have fitted that gown 11 times since the 9th of March, and she has lost near 2 inches off her, and she does not look at the glass. And I let the waist out on the 2nd of June, without being asked, because she could not have got into it otherwise. And I did not tell one living soul, and I have thought about nothing else for 4 days." He did not say anything, and I want to say the rest of it, sir, because if I do not say it now, I never shall. Hannah's hands were shaking, and she put them flat on her knees. On Tuesday, she was standing on the box, and she looked at me in the glass, and she opened her mouth to say something to me, and I did not let her. I said the hem wanted straightening, and it did not. I knelt down and I put my head down, and I did not let that girl say it, because if she had said it to me, I should have had to do something about it, and I have got a mother at Islington. The Duke of Marchford opened his eyes and looked at her. You knew this morning, he said. I knew on Tuesday, sir. I knew in the march, and I did not let myself know it. Hannah Poole's face was entirely wet, and she did not wipe it. You have been sitting on this ground for 4 minutes, and I have been holding on to you, knowing exactly why she did not come, and I am not going to kneel here and be thanked for it. Somewhere behind them, at the top of Vine Court, the wedding carriage stood at the gate of St. Bride's with the white ribbons still on it, and the horses shifted, and nobody came out. Miss Poole, said the Duke of Marchford. Where is she? I do not know. Do you know why? Hannah Poole knelt on the wet stones and understood that she had one more thing, and that saying it would finish her at Duke Street inside a week. No, sir, she said, but I know who she was frightened of, and it is not you, and I have known that since about the 4th fitting. Mrs. Gell had it by 4 o'clock on the Friday, which was 2 days, and Hannah never found out from whom. She had a fair idea. There had been a verger at St. Bride's standing in the passage door at about 11, and Hannah had seen him, and had thought nothing of it. And a verger who has seen a dressmaker's girl kneel down in the mud with her arms round the bridegroom does not keep it to himself past Thursday. Shut the door, said Mrs. Gell. Hannah shut the door. I have had a letter from Mrs. Vane. Yes, ma'am. Do not, yes, ma'am, me girl. I have had it in my hand for 2 hours, and I have read it 4 times. Mrs. Gell put it down on the table. She says that a person from this establishment was seen in Vine Court on the 4th of June in conversation with the Duke of Marchford, and that she is given to understand that the person made statements respecting Miss Vane's state of mind during the fittings, and that she cannot conceive that I would knowingly permit such a thing, and that she awaits my assurance. I did say it. I know you said it. Mrs. Gell's hands were flat on the table, and she was, Hannah realized, quite as frightened as Hannah was. That is not the question in front of me. The question in front of me is that I have 11 ladies in that book who are sisters and cousins of Mrs. Vane, and if I write back and say that my girl told a gentleman what she saw in a fitting room, I lose the whole of that book by Michaelmas, and there are 4 girls in the room upstairs. Then turn me off, ma'am. Do not be a fool, and do not be noble at me. I have not got the patience for either. Mrs. Gell sat down. Hannah, sit down and tell me the whole of it, and do not leave anything out, and then I shall decide, and I shall not be deciding it about you. 4 girls. Hannah told her the whole of it. It took 11 minutes. Mrs. Gell heard it out, and then sat for some time with her hands in her lap. The 4th fitting, she said at last. Say that part again. The 11th of April, ma'am, at Bruton Street. It was in the afternoon, and Miss Vane was on the box, and the mother was out of the room, and there were footsteps in the passage, and a man's voice. I could not tell you what he said. It was 2 words. And she went entirely still, and put her hand out, and took hold of the glass. Hannah's own hands had gone cold with it again. Not startled, ma'am. She went still the way a rabbit goes still, and when he came in she was perfectly pleasant to him, and so was he to her, and it was about a horse, and he went out again in 4 minutes. Who was it? Her brother, said Hannah. Mr. Edmund Vane. Mrs. Gell shut her eyes. And the other 3 times. The 9th of May he came in and stood behind her, and looked at the gown in the glass for about a minute, and did not say one word, and she did not move the whole time. And when he had gone, she said, Is it not looking well to me? In a voice about half the size of her own. Hannah looked up, and the 28th of May the mother said something about him, and Miss Vane put her hand up to her collarbone. She did that whenever he was spoken of. Every time. 11 fittings, and I could tell you every occasion his name was said in a room without looking at my book. You have a book? I have got the fitting book, ma'am, same as always. Hannah's voice was steady now. Date, measures, alterations, and what wanted doing next time. Every gown in this house has one, and I have kept mine since I was 16 because you told me to. Mrs. Gell of Duke Street sat in her own workroom for about 11 seconds. Then she got up and went to the press and took down a ledger of her own, and Hannah, who had been in that house 7 years, saw a drawer opened that she had not known opened. "Sit there," said Mrs. Gell. "I am going to tell you something that I have never told any girl in this house, and I shall be extremely obliged if you never repeat it while I am alive. I have been at this trade 31 years, and I have measured about 4,000 women. And there is a thing you learn in the first 3 years and never once say out loud, which is that a fitting room is the only place in England where a woman of that sort takes her clothes off in front of somebody who is not her husband or her maid, and stands still for an hour, and cannot get away." She put her hand on the ledger. "There have been 11 occasions in 31 years," said Mrs. Gell, "when a girl of mine has come back from a house and told me a thing. 2 of them I did not